Have you ever had a boring looking data set like this and wish you could make it more exciting? Say hello to Racing Bar Charts. So let's kick this off and watch the top 15 countries by population size as they change over time. So this adds a lot of excitement to your data set, and in this case you can watch India and China at the top as they're battling for dominance. You could take a look at the bottom where the UK is dancing and flirting and off the charts now completely. So this is a great way to add interactivity and a different way to visualize your data changing over time, whether it's something like the population or something like sales or other data in your Google Sheets. All right, so let's jump right in. So first of all, here's how we have the data set up. And so if you want population data like this, you can just make a copy of the template and the link in the description below, or you can use your own. So basically what we have here is your name or company, whatever it is, and then have that data set up in each year just like this. So you could go more than a year, you could do months, you could do January of 1960, February 1960, and so forth. So you can use whatever metric you want there. You'll just have to iterate accordingly in the script. All right, and so I have a blank tab here. We're going to build that from scratch. And the only other thing I have here is I went through and picked out what are the top 20 countries over that period. And then I just assigned a color to them so that way we can distinguish them in the final product. So let's go ahead and jump in, first of all, with our basic setup. So let's start with a couple of display things here. So I'm going to just size some of these columns here, and we'll set this to 30 as well. And then come down around here, and I'm going to do 1, 2, 3, and then I'm going to drag this down to 15. So you can do more or less. If you only have 5, that's fine as well. I'll show you how to iterate through that. And then I'm going to go ahead and delete the rest of these columns. So I'm going to click on there, scroll down, hold down Shift, click on this one, right click, and delete rows. So there is our 15 rows. And then I'm going to populate the country and the population, and then we're going to make a chart here. So this chart will go wider, and then I'm just going to resize this to 30 and get rid of the rest of these columns. And then I'm just going to resize this to basically fill the rest of the screen. And so we're going to do country and the population size here. So I need a way to set the year. So I'm going to do that here. And then merge this, and then I'm going to start with 1960. That's the first year I have. And then I'm going to just do some formatting on this, and maybe add a border down below. And then we're just going to iterate this as we go through time. So we're going to reference this in our formula here. So let's go ahead and populate this first. So I'm going to use a query formula. So query. And then I'm going to grab my data over here, and then let's get all the way over. So what does this go to? BJ. Let's type that in there. And then I'm just going to do a select column 1. And then for my second column, I need to be able to dynamically determine it based on what we have selected. So what I'm going to do here is column, and then I'm going to exit out of this. And then I'm going to do a match. And then we're going to match our year here to our row here. And then 0 to finish out our match. And so this should come up with a column number. And let's just hit that. Okay, so that should be 1951. That is changing, so that should be good. And then let's do a limit real quick, limit 15, just so we can get rid of the rest of these real quick. And then we'll build out the rest of our logic. So currently it's mostly in order. There's some of these obviously out of order. This one should be above. So we need a sort as well. And so what we're going to do here is order by call. And then we need that same thing again, because I want to order it by population size. So I need to exit out again, and then I'm going to copy the same formula, and then that did the wrong way. I need to do order by descending. There we go. Now we have the top 15 countries. All right, so next I need to add a sparkline chart here. And so we do sparkline, and then we need some data here so we can take this cell, but then we need a max. So how do we determine that? So what I've done is I'm actually going to take a max of our population data. So I believe that's BJ. And so there's our max population. So let me do this and then get rid of these commas in here. So that's our max population that we have. So we could leave that in place, or we could go a little bit bigger. So I'm going to go just a hair bigger. So I'm going to go 2, and then we're going to do minus D4. And so now we have a line, which is not what we want. So we need to go to our additional options here. And if we pop this open, we can see more options and pull this open here. So what we're going to use is actually a bar chart. And so I'm going to grab that and paste that in here and hit enter. And there we go. There's a start. So what I'm going to use, however, if we scroll down to bar charts, so we can set the color 1 and color 2. So color 1, if we come up here, we'll do color 1 and then comma. And so I could set a color like gray, and there's that. And then let me go ahead and set color 2. I'm going to set this one to white. And then I'm going to dynamically pick my first color. So right now it's gray, but I want to pick from these colors over here. So what I'm going to do is actually a VLOOKUP or XLOOKUP. I'm just going to go ahead and use XLOOKUP here. And then pick China. And then come over here to my colors. Look here for my first one, and then here for my colors. And then come back, and there we go. So there's the basics of that. And drag this down, and there are our colors. So one thing that you may notice in the original is I had these highlighted the same color. So the way I'm going to have to do that is with conditional formatting, because this is a sparkline chart, so we can dynamically pull that, but we can't just automatically highlight this unless we do some conditional formatting. So I'm actually going to accomplish that using a script. And so let's go ahead and get into that script. So we're going to go ahead and create this script from scratch. And so I'll call this script project. And then the first thing we're going to do is, so I recreated this and then I didn't refresh it. So our menu is still here. But first of all, I'm going to create that menu. So we're going to do on open. And then I'm going to do spreadsheet get UI. And then from here, I'm going to tab to the next line. So I didn't end this. I didn't put a semicolon here because I'm going to add on to this. So I got the UI, and that's basically the user interface of the spreadsheet. And then we're going to create a menu. So create, and we want regular menu, not add-on. And then we can name this menu. So we can call it run sim or whatever you want there. And then we're going to add an item. And this one will be our start. And then we can do start sim. And then I'm going to do a separator, just add a little bar between, and then another item, and we're going to call this one reset and reset. And then finally, add to UI. So if you notice here, I'm just using this period to add another thing to our UI. And I'm not adding a semicolon. If you're used to coding, you end every line with semicolon, but we don't want to do that till the end because these could look like this. So it could all be one line. We're just doing multiple lines to make it look a little cleaner. So let me do that. And then I'm going to right click and format document just to auto tab those. Our script menu. And so that's where we'll run this from on this. All right. And then next, I'm going to come up with a script to automatically do the conditional formatting for these because I don't want to do it manually. So I'm not going to walk you through writing the script. I will walk you through writing the rest of the scripts. This one just has a little bit more to it. but I will include this in a sample copy in case you download it. And so let me just show you where this works. So we have this color sheet with the name and the color. So if you have that same setup, then this will work. And then my main sheet is called racing, and that's right here. And then the range we're applying it to is right here. So that's D4 through D23 or 18 there. So as long as you keep those aligned, so if you need to rename that and rename this, you can, and then that will work for you as well. Basically what this will do is it'll go through and set those colors if they match. So I'm going to go ahead and run this. One thing I'm going to add real quick here is just to limit the permissions it's going to ask for. I'm going to do only current doc. So this is just going to keep it faster when we go to authorize. So I'm going to go ahead and do on open, review permissions, choose my account, and then all it's asking for is for this project. So continue, and then we're good to go. So now I'm going to do my add conditional formatting and run this. And when that's done, these are all now highlighting. So let me go ahead and finish a little formatting here, and then we'll go finish the scripting, which actually won't take very much. So let me highlight these white, I think, and then let's bold these as well. And then I'm going to make this a little bit wider. And then let's go ahead and remove the grid lines, get rid of our number there. We don't need that anymore. And then I'm going to add some white borders just to give us a little more delineation. I'm going to go to this widest one there, and then do this, just the horizontal. And then maybe on top too, bottom. I think that looks pretty good. So we can center these as well. And are these centered already? So I'm going to make these a little bit taller. Maybe something like 26, 25 maybe. And you can adjust these as you like as well. So you can already tell it's looking pretty clean. Let me just do a couple little resizing here to make these a little shorter. And this one a little shorter there. And so we can just kind of make any adjustments we need to. Make this a little bit narrower, just make it fit. There we go. All right, I think that should be all the visual tweaks we need. One more thing we're going to do here, though, is these are really long numbers. So one thing you can do is a custom number formatting. And so I'm actually going to copy this and drop it in the script as well, in case you need it. And so you can just copy this whole thing, and I'll show you how to do that from scratch. So basically do custom number format, paste that in here and hit apply, and then it'll do that custom number formatting, which basically just shortens them. So now we can make these even a little shorter if we want, or narrow there, just a little wider again. All right, so that should be good for our setup on this side. And then let me show you how to write the rest of these scripts. So on this project, we're doing by year, and I'm going to basically increment this year by year in the script. So 1960, 1690. So what I need to do is have a start year. So I'm going to do that. Let start year equal 1960. And then let's do our end year is 2020. And now I can do my function start sim. And then what we're going to do here is, first of all, let's get our spreadsheet. So spreadsheet app, get active spreadsheet. And then my racing sheet is ss.getSheetByName racing. And then I'm just going to do a simple while loop while start year is less than end year. And then do my curly braces to get into my while loop. And so what this is going to do, and let me put this start year plus plus. So what this while loop will do is while this is less than this, it's going to keep going. Now, this would make an endless loop if we didn't do this plus plus. So what this does is it adds 1 to the 1960. So when this first runs, is 1960 less than 2020. If so, add 1 to 1960, so 1961. And it's going to be 1961 is less than 2020. Yes, run this. And then it's going to be 1962 and so forth. So it's going to run once for each year in this range. So then what we're going to do is a simple sheet get range, and then I believe it's B2. So when you have merged ones like this, you want to look at the top left. So our row is 2 and our first one is B. So this would be B2, and then set value to start year. Now we only need to do one more thing in here actually to make this work. And so currently if I run this, it's going to go so fast, it's not going to have time to refresh. So what I'm going to do is add one more thing in here called spreadsheet app flush. And so what this is going to do is before it continues on and keeps iterating, it's going to make sure the spreadsheet actually refreshes so we can actually see the display change. So let's go ahead and get this ready to go. All right, so now we should be able to come over here and see this run. So let's go ahead and start, and we're off to the races. So I'm gonna go ahead and go to the back end while this is running, so you're not just watching again. If you wanna watch it again, you can rewind to the start of this video if you want to watch that again, or you can build this yourself. And so let's go ahead and build our reset function. I'm gonna do reset, and then in here, it's gonna be pretty simple. So I'm just gonna grab this again, and then we're just going to do a set value here of start year. And so that will reset it back to that starting year. So if we go back to our chart, it is now done. And so I can do the reset, and I'll reset that to 1960, and then we're good to go again. Now, one thing is we don't have to do this reset. You could just type it in manually. So if it was down to 2020, you could just come in here 1960 manually. But this is a great way if you want to keep it within the script. And so technically you don't even need the script. You can go manually one by one, but then every time you hit enter, it's exiting and you have to click back in. So it's kind of clunky, and it definitely makes it way better to be able to just click a button and watch it run through. All right, so as we wrap up this video, let me know in the comments below how you are or will be using this in your own project. And I can think of no better way to finish this than with a race to the end.